Welcome to Sharing the Middle, where we share the messy middles of life together and hope to see and hear each other. I'm Lacey, your friend in the middle and guide, and I'm coming at you today with a Lacey solo episode because of some pretty big updates in my life. So if you follow me on social media, you will know that I am unexpectedly pregnant. And I thought about sharing with you all in a little bit more of a longer form about the messiness of this middle. And it's messy because there's so much involved with it. So let's start with the fact that I have an IUD. I did not intend to get pregnant. And so it was a big old surprise. I am one of the 0.2% of women that this happens to, which, as if you've listened from my husband Joe, that this would happen to me. Most women don't talk about their pregnancies in the first trimester because there is a higher risk of miscarriage. I am at a higher risk of miscarriage because of getting pregnant with this IUD, and then they couldn't get the IUD out, which increases my chance of miscarriage again. Even with all that, though, I can't not talk about it. But I can't not talk about it because I know if something happens where this pregnancy isn't successful and I do have a miscarriage, I will also need to talk about it. And my hope, too, is that by talking about it, I can help other women who are in a similar place. Because the first trimester is hard. This is my third go-around of pregnancy. And pregnancy is awful for me. There are some women in my family who I love and cherish very much who love being pregnant. I am not one of those women. Get sick regularly. I have gestational diabetes, so I'm getting sick, but I'm only supposed to eat certain things at certain times, and it's a very restrictive time for me. I feel awful, like, all the time. It's really hard, for me at least. There are some amazing women that are some of my dearest friends and loved ones who are champs who can be quiet about it, but I am not one of those women. I need us all to be on the same page about where I'm at, what my level of expectations are for myself, and all that stuff. It's been a really weird couple of weeks. Obviously, I'm pregnant with an IUD. I did not intend to get pregnant, but the thing is, I wanted a third baby. So did Joe. This is something that we both wanted. We both had this feeling that our family just wasn't done yet. But with my chronic illness, it felt irresponsible to have another child. One, because as I already said, pregnancy, awful for me. Awful. So the thought of pregnancy being awful for me on top of my chronic illness stuff, who knows? I could be incapacitated the whole time. The other part of it is life is hard with a chronic illness, and taking care of an infant is hard. And so I am very much on deck all the time. And it's a lot. And I worried and now worry about what that's going to look like for me when we get there. And this is where I talk about this is a very messy middle, because on one hand, I'm so excited. My children are excited. My husband's excited. My family's excited. Both of our families thought they were done with grandkids. And here we are bringing in another one. So there's so much joy around us. But there's also a lot of fear and anxiety. And still that feeling of, I'm not going to be good enough. Disability and chronic illness makes life a lot harder for me. Having toddlers was hard. Having infants is going to be hard too. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I love an infant stage. I loved the time between having that baby and those first 3 months that are really hard for a lot of women. So I like to think of it as like pregnancy is awful for me. So the least that the world do is make those first few months good. There's a lot of things I'm scared of. So I'm scared that time is not going to be as good for me. Now, that being said, there are a lot of ways that this pregnancy and the timing of it makes so much more sense as far as the way that our life is set up now. Joe is in a job where he's going to get 12 weeks of paternity leave, which is amazing for us because me having someone all the time there with me to help me during those first few months, huge. It's such an uncertain time. And with my health, it could be so uncertain. And I'm going to have a partner the whole time. Whereas before, I got maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks with Joe. And then he went back to work and it was all on me. And I don't have an end date now since I'm working for myself. I get to determine, and Sarah, my No Shame in the Home Game co-host and Joyful Support Movement co-founder, and I have talked about what quote unquote maternity leave will look like for me. And I have so much more flexibility in my life to make things work. So there are so many ways where this time around it's okay. We may not be able to flex here, but we can flex here. Isaac and Iris are so excited. They've both been big fans of babies. They're pretty jazzed. When it comes to being pregnant with MECFS, I've naturally done a lot of research because when I can't do, I research. And a third of women with MECFS who get pregnant actually feel better during pregnancy. 1/3 feel the same and 1/3 feel worse. So if I felt better, great, grand, fantastic. I'll be honest, I don't think I'm going to be in the worst category, which is a big deal because so far it's been okay. Part of it's because I know what to expect. Have I thrown up? Yes. Yes, I have. But I've only actually vomited once, which is pretty awesome, guys. Usually I'm like vomiting all the time. I'm nauseous, but yeah. What you'll find is I'm very matter of fact about my pregnancy symptoms. And it's just because it's my reality. So it is what it is. There are a lot of like other things that I'm nervous about. I already have very little energy to help manage our household. And now I'm going to have less. The other thing that food is a challenge because with gestational diabetes, my doctor and I basically were like, we're not going to make you take a test. We're just going to have you start monitoring your sugars. And the mental load of gestational diabetes is more than I think people can imagine. With gestational diabetes, I have to take my blood sugar before and after every meal. With Isaac, I only had to take pills. With Iris, I had to give myself an insulin shot with every meal. So if you add it up, I was poking myself either with a shot or drawing blood, I think it was 12 times a day. And then there's this element when I'm a rule follower, right? I like to do the things I'm supposed to do and get things done and A+s around. And gestational diabetes is like being a part of a class that you cannot have control over. You can do everything right and your sugars can still be everywhere, which it's like the system is set up against you. Not the system, but like when you throw up, your body makes your sugars skyrocket because you're in this like fight or flight mode and your body's ready to fight. And so your sugars go up. So my sugars in the morning are always high because guess who's throwing up regularly in the morning? It's all a lot. And it's a lot of expectations and it's a lot of fear and excitement. And it's all rolled up into this one period of time. And it's hard, but it's also magical and wonderful. It is the messiest of middles that I could even think of. And it is a middle. Pregnancy is the most challenging middle I've had thus far because you can't do anything about it. You can't speed it up. You got to just be in it and wait. Then when we talk about things like how do I want to do birth, I'm very nervous about it. I had a C-section with Isaac and a vaginal birth after C-section with Iris, and I would much prefer the VBAC this time around. But I was reading that for some women with MECFS, the vaginal birth can be a very triggering event when it comes to post-exertional malaise. And that means that I could go into a bad exertional malaise session. I don't know the right way to say it afterwards. And that is a time when if I want to be breastfeeding, that would not be good. But it could also happen with C-section. So who knows? And I think that's where I'm landing with a lot of these things. There are no right answers. There's just the answers that feel good to me in the moment. This middle journey up until this point has prepared me for this, for accepting. This week I've been able to do just about nothing. And it's one of the first times in my life that I'm like, okay, I'm just doing nothing. I've canceled meetings, which is really hard for me to do. I've done truly the bare minimum when it comes to things, and it's okay. Everything's fine. Everyone's fine. Everything's moving. And it's what I need. It's what my body needs. It's what this baby needs. I would not be able to do that if it wasn't for the journey and the lessons that I've learned throughout this podcast. So I tell you all that, one, to just give you an insight into the insanity that is my mind right now, but also to say I'm going to do my best as we go over these next weeks, months, the next year. Who knows how long? This is very important to me. Sharing the middle, the joyful support movement is so important to me and to my soul and to my being. I also know that sharing is literally what I'm here to do. As the more that I dive into my human design and all these different things, all the messages are as Lacey, your role in this world is to just share what's going on with you in your journey and what's been hard. And that's what's going to be your superpower in making the world a better place. So I'm doing that, but it's still work. It's still stuff to do. And sometimes I can't do stuff. Like I said, Sarah is amazing, my co-founder, and we're talking about what things are going to look like as we continue down this path. And I don't foresee myself taking a full absolute maternity leave in almost any case, maybe like a week, because working on this stuff is joy for me. Sharing makes me better, makes me feel better. But I also know that I can't saddle myself to a specific schedule or whatnot. So you're going to share this messy middle with me. I can't tell you what it's going to be like exactly. I can tell you I will do my best to share in the most authentic and comfortable way that I can. That I want to hear and listen to you all as much as I can. But I also may just go dark for some time because I have to. Now, I do have episodes coming up. I had to cancel a bunch of my interviews coming up because, I can't. I'm still not in a place to have a conversation with people that I don't know because it's a little bit more challenging. But my current plan is to stick with our every other week sharing the middles that are going to be some middle interviews and some conversations in my life. No Shame in the Home Game is going to do a modified season 3, and we're going to stick with every other week. And we're just going to keep rolling how we can, because that's the best that we can do when we're sharing the middle. We can show up, we can share where we're at, the realities of it, and keep moving. Thank you for taking some time with me today and listening to what I hope was a coherent, but a piece of my soul in my heart. And I'm thankful that you are with me in this unexpected, wonderful, joyful, exhausting, too much middle journey. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for sharing the middle with me today. Thanks for sharing the middle with me. As always, I hope you've been able to see a little bit of yourself in the story we shared today. Don't forget to follow, share, rate, review, and follow me on social media at Lacey Shares. You can always check out the Joyful Support Movement at joyfulsupportmovement.com and see all of the amazing goodness we have there, like No Shame in the Home Game, Pops of Joy, courses, resources, and of course, the Joyful Support Village. All right, now go out there and spread some joy.